Today is Wednesday, the 9th of December. I put this up here. You should have all gotten at least one email from me yesterday, depending on how many classes you have with me. You could have gotten up to 3 emails from me. But as it says, I will accept work up until 8 p.m. on Sunday, December 20th. If I get anything after that, it'll get graded, but I'm going to give you no guarantee that I'm going to grade it before January. All right. If for some reason you've had medical problems or other kind of problems, personal or whatever, and you need an incomplete, it used to be, this has totally changed over the years. It used to be I had to hunt you down and say, Roger, do you need an incomplete? But they don't want that to happen anymore. They want you to contact the instructor and ask for an incomplete. All right, so that's how it's changed over time. All right, so I'll leave it at that. What we're going to do today is we're going to end up creating at least one Java program and possibly up to 3. And the good news is that virtually just about everything that we put in, this is the first one we're going to create. And almost everything that we put in, we're just going to be able to copy it to the other 2 and then just make some superficial changes. Now, this is to get people in vogue, so to speak, for what we're going to be doing in the spring semester in the 152-143 class, which is beginning Java programming. This is the book that we're going to be using for the class. I showed this to you already. It's out there on the P drive in PDF format. It's a big book. It's got 17 chapters, and ideally we'll go through the first 9 chapters in the beginning class. All right, chapter 1 is just an introduction. We're going to go back over that again the first day of class and breeze through that fairly quickly. Same with chapter 2, which is kind of a beginning chapter. That's what we've been going over now. All right, this book is used both for the beginning Java class and the advanced Java class. All right, I've mentioned that before. So what I'd like everyone to do, please, is by now, hopefully at least, everyone knows how to get into your virtual desktop. All right, again, it should be on every machine. If you don't have a shortcut like this that says VMware Horizon Client, then you should be able to go and click Start, go to All Programs, go down to the very bottom and find VMware. And underneath there, it should say VMware Horizon Client. All right, but I want you to get into the virtual desktop. So once you click that, it should look like this. Once you click this or double click it, it'll come up like this. You log in the regular way you've been logging in. It'll show you this. I don't think yours has got this external desktops. I've had that here ever since I've been here. There's never anything in it, but it's here anyway. So just click your student one, and that should bring up your other desktop. If you have not used it before, it'll be pretty blank. If you've used it before, it'll start looking ugly real fast, a lot like mine's going to look in just a minute, all right, with a lot of garbage in it. All right, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to quickly create a miscellaneous folder and throw virtually everything that I've got into that miscellaneous folder so it doesn't get in the way of what I'm trying to show you here. So, all right. So I'm taking for granted everyone was able to do that. You were all able to get into your virtual desktop without any problem. What I'd recommend, all right, and I'm going to show you this very deliberately. There's no sense in going through this in a hurried type of manner. Anything that you create on your virtual desktop, according to the people in our IT department, it'll still be there when you get back from break. They're not going to change anything. Your virtual desktop will not be changed. Your virtual desktop should not be changed this year, period. Unless for some reason it got so balled up that you'd have to ask IT to reset it for you. All right. I will tell you that there is a very good chance that somewhere in between early June and the end of August, your virtual desktop will be blown away. So anything that you've got on it by the end of the year, make sure you copy it to your H drive or to a flash drive or whatever, because they reset the virtual desktop at the end of each school year, all right, or reset it. And the reason that that's important too is there's a couple people, there's at least one person in this class, all right, believe it or not, when you look around, we have 18 in the class. And there's one person who's never shown once, not one time. I don't know who the person is. They've never shown. So, but that person has a virtual desktop set up. And you can darn well be sure that by this time next year, they won't have one unless they come back into the program. Okay, that kind of thing. So the first thing I'd ask you to do is, once you're on your virtual desktop like this, create a folder. So just right mouse click, choose new, choose folder, and what I'm going to recommend you call this, if you don't want to call it this, you don't have to, but I'm going to recommend that you just call it what it is, 152-143. All right? And that particular folder is going to hold every single program that you create. Does that make sense to people? All right? It'll be a folder that'll have other folders in it. Now, just so you know, I've said this to you before, but I'm saying it again. I cannot get to your virtual desktop. I can't. Okay? So what you are going to have to do when you turn in homework assignments is you're going to have to copy the folders that go in here to your H drive. All right? This is one class because these start to get real big and stuff. I don't particularly want you to email me these. All right? It's much easier if, what you could do is literally, as you create stuff in here, when it's done and it's ready to be turned in, you could take this folder here and copy the whole folder to your H drive if you wanted to do that. All right, I'm not saying you will or you won't. Okay, so we've got that folder set up. Okay? So what I'd like you to do is start up Eclipse. You might have a shortcut here for Eclipse on your system. You might not. Let's suppose you don't. So you should be able to click Start. You might have a shortcut right there. You might not. All right? So let's suppose you don't. If we go to All Programs, someplace under here, and I don't even know where do you know where it is, John?
Not offhand, it should be right there, though.
You should have. Do you have a thing up here? You all should have that. All right? If you want to, you can right mouse click on that, and you can tell it to either pin it to the taskbar, or you can pin it to the start menu if you want. So if I click down here where it says pin to start menu and look down in the bottom of my screen now, when I click that, sooner or later, it's going to put it down here.
That was for the start menu. You wanted taskbar.
All right, backwards. So you want taskbar. Thank you. So you can pin that to the taskbar. There it is. So it's down there. Whatever way is easiest for you. So there's a bunch of different ways that you can start it. I like having something right on my desktop. You may or may not agree with that. But either way, double click on that icon that says Eclipse, and that'll start it up. If yours doesn't look exactly like mine, don't worry about it. All right? Eclipse is an IDE. All right? What that means, being an IDE, is it is an integrated development environment. All right? And literally, what that means is this is our editor. This is where we're going to do everything. You might have a totally different thing set up because mine already is set up. So if yours doesn't look like this, don't let that worry you, okay? Don't let it worry you at all. If it does come up, and let me just take a look at a couple of yours here and see what it looks like. That's good. All right. You can just click, just close that. So if you've got a welcome screen that came up, just click the X that's up there. Okay? Let's see. Location of the Android SDK. Just click close. And just, for right now, just click cancel because that won't matter for here. And then close this. So click that X that's up. That's up right up here. That's right where you should be. All right, good. So yours probably looks something like this, but you don't have a bunch of stuff that's up here because these are all different Java and Android programs that I've created. All right, well, the first thing I want to do is, by default, what this is showing is I've already got a folder on my desktop that's called Java. I don't want to use that right now. I want to use the 152, 143 just like you do. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to tell Eclipse when we create projects where it should save them. All right? And the way that we do that is we click File. You can all do this. Click File and go down to where it says Switch Workspace and then choose other. All right, and it'll come up and it'll look like this. Yours won't say D:\J Scott. I guarantee that. Yours won't say that. All right? And I don't know what yours says. To be honest with you, I don't care. All right? But the fastest way to change it, you could if you wanted to, and it's totally fine. You could manually type in here D:\users / your username. So let's say that your username is John Smith and it's J Smith, something like that. / and you could put in 152-143. You can do it like that. The problem is you may make a mistake when you're keying something in. So the easier way to do this, and you only have to do this once, the easier way to do it is to just click Browse. All right, you should see Desktop up here. And if you start going and perusing your way down, ideally you'll see that folder that you created that says 152-143. So I'm going to click that, and I'm going to click OK. Then you want to double click to make sure that that's the way yours looks. So D:\users / your username /desktop /152-143. While we're going through this, if you for some reason something doesn't work or you have a problem, please raise your hand. I'll walk over, or John will walk over. Maybe you'll be lucky. We'll both walk over. All right? But we'll do that. I want to make sure everyone's is set up. All right? Now, what you're going to notice when I do this, it might come back and tell you that it wants to restart Eclipse. And if it does, that's okay. It's not going to hurt anything. But what you're going to notice on mine is all this is going to go away. Because instead of showing me everything under my Java folder, it's now going to be showing me everything that's under my 152-143 folder. And there's nothing there because I just created the folder. All right, so I'm going to click OK. And you probably didn't notice it, but it stopped Eclipse and it's starting Eclipse again. Okay, and that's okay. We're going to go back. Now, all of you who are in here, who are in the class for spring, you won't have to do this next semester. And everybody else who's not here, who's going to be in that class, they will have to do it. Okay? You may or may not get a message like I've got right here that says location of Android SDK. If you don't get it, not a problem. If you do get it, not a problem. All right? Just click close if you do get that message. And if you don't, that's cool. This is probably very similar to the window that you got when you opened the system up. All right? And you'll notice, if you want to, I'm not going to go through any of these, but there is an overview of what's available to you in Eclipse. There are samples. All right, there's a what's new, which probably isn't going to do much for you because if you've never used it before, there was nothing old. All right, and there are tutorials on Eclipse. Okay, if you want to go through that. You don't have to ever go through any of that. So I'm just going to close the welcome screen by clicking that X that's up there. And what I did too was I want to maximize this, so I'm going to go up to the title bar up here and double click on it, and boom. So this is your Eclipse window. And with John's help in just a second, I don't know if we should set the views and all that stuff, or if we have to or not. But
not for Java so much.
Okay, but just so you know, this is called, as it says up there, this is your Package Explorer. All right, so as we start to create different programs in here, everything's going to appear in here. It's a lot like Windows Explorer. You can tunnel your way down through it, etc. That's all I'm going to say. All right. This area down here, there's actually going to be two different things that can happen down here. Either, as it says, you might get errors and stuff will show in here, but when we first start to run our first program, we're just going to have it run in the console area, which is also down here. It's just going to give us our output. Okay. This is the area in which you type everything, right in here. All right. This area that's over here that says task list and outline and other stuff, you're really not going to use any of that this semester. That's all stuff that gets used for the advanced class once we get into the Android stuff. Probably they could even close it if they wanted to.
Right.
All right. So if you don't, if you want to just give yourself some more room where it says task list, if you have that, you can just click the X. And where it says outline, if you have that, you can just click the X. Now I've got more room to type.
Well, I would keep the outline though.
Oh, okay. Well, it's not going to hurt anything. I can bring it back if I need to. All right. Now, there are different perspectives and views and different things that are in here, and they're all basically under here. There's a show view under here that you can set different things up, and there's perspectives in here that you can set things up. I don't know for what we're doing today if they have to really do anything in there. It might be faster to just do that for everybody at one time. So
One thing I would suggest though is go into preferences and click that.
So you can all do this. Go to Window, go down to Preferences, and click on Preferences.
Go to General or Expand General.
Expand here where it says General, so click the plus sign.
Go down to Startup and Shutdown.
Startup and Shutdown right here.
Expand that.
Expand.
And click on Workspace. And then remove the H.
Oh, all the ones you're not going to use. Okay. So get rid of this. You're never going to use H colon for your workspace. You should never have to, so you can remove that. All right. On mine, I'm just going to keep both because I'm going to bounce back and forth between the two. Okay. Even if you don't do that, it's not going to hurt anything. But the real key thing is, and please don't do this. We're going to do it as a class in a second. But we're going to come in here in just a minute and do a File, New, Java project. We're going to do this as a class in just a second. What's important when you do that is where it says location. This has to be correct. All right. And that's what you just set it to. Unfortunately, last semester, in my quest to get everybody through this quickly, we skipped that. And guess what? Almost everyone's was set. These were all set to C:\users / the name of one of the IT assistants. So it was saving all the stuff over to their account. We don't want to do that. He doesn't want that. He has no desire to have your Java programs. All right? So we're about to create right now our first Java program. So we're going to do File, go over to New, right under File, first thing, and Java project. There's other ways that you can do this also, just so you know. I think you can even go to Project and then something under there says Java project. I'm trying to show you what I consider to be the easiest way of doing this. So again, File, New, Java project. Once those are all highlighted, go ahead and click on Java project and you should get this. All right. Now, where it says up here, project name, I'm going to recommend, I keep telling people, I'm telling you this, but then people don't listen anyway. And what I'm about to tell you, this is just the second year people also. Get used to when you name things, don't put blank spaces in any names. Don't put them in file names. Next semester when you're working with Denny, don't put them into database field names. Even if he tells you to. I'm sorry, I'm not, he's wrong. If he says that, he is. You shouldn't do it. Some packages allow you to do it and you won't have problems. Most do have problems with it. So get used to running things together. All right? Now, if there's time, we're going to create at least one of these payroll programs and maybe up to 3. Okay? So the first one is going to be a payroll program that's based off of Chapter 1 of your book. So I'm calling mine CH1 Payroll. And notice, the C and the P are capitalized, and everything else that's in there is lowercase. And there are no blank spaces in there. All right?
Or apostrophes.
Right. Yeah. I've had people do a program in the past, and Denny might have you do it next semester too, where you create basically a bill for an automotive place, and it's called Joe's Automotive. So people would name theirs, and they would name it Joe's Automotive. Even though I said, when you do this, don't ever put an apostrophe in there. 10% of people still put an apostrophe in there. And then the system, when it goes and it's got a lot of its internal files, it comes up to that apostrophe. I've had people say, I put an apostrophe in it and it works fine. And then all of a sudden, a week, 2 weeks later, hey, mine doesn't work anymore. Do you know why? Yeah, it's because you put an apostrophe in it. You're best off just using letters and numbers. All right, and if you do that, you should never run into a problem. So much the same way that I just asked you to do it, I'm going to come in here and say CH1 payroll. And you'll notice that as I fill that out, it's now saying it's going to save that into my users, JScott desktop, into my 152, 143 CH1 payroll. In just a minute, you're going to see that right here. There's going to be a folder here that's going to be called CH1 payroll. All right? The rest of the stuff that's up here, literally, we keep all the defaults. You should never have to touch anything else on this screen. Okay? So we can just click. You can click next, but nothing magical happens. So you can just click finish. And notice there's the folder up there, CH1 payroll. There is absolutely, if I open up that payroll right now, this is my stuff. There's absolutely nothing in there. But if you look, you're like, what the heck is all that stuff? Well, it's under the JRE, which is the Java Runtime Environment. And it says System Library. And there's a bunch of stuff in there that says jar on the end of it. What that is those are built-in Java files that are available for you to use the stuff that's in there in your projects. That's all you need to know for right now. That's it. And you shouldn't really touch it. You shouldn't remove it. It's more or less, for lack of better words, it's a necessary evil. All right? But we want to start putting stuff into our source folder. And the way that we do this, just so you know, so right now, we've come in here and we've created a folder. So we've got a folder here that says CH1 payroll. And in that folder, among other things, there's another little thing that says SRC, and then there's another little thing underneath that that basically just says JRE and a bunch of other stuff. And we don't care. We just care about this one. But there's nothing in there right now. And what we have to do is we have to create, it's almost the equivalent of another folder, but it's called a package. So we have to create a package to put in there. And then we'll put in our actual class that we're going to create under that package. All right, so how do we do that? Well, you can see where it's highlighted here, where it says SRC. You can go and you can right mouse click either on the folder or on the name, but right mouse click there and go to New again and go down and find Package, which is the fourth one down. All right, so we right mouse clicked on the folder where it said SRC. We chose New, and we're going to Package. All right, and we're going to click. And it comes up and it says, well, you're about to build this under your CH1 payroll folder, and underneath that, you're going to put this under SRC. That's good because that's what we want. So we have to name this. Now, the way that packages are named, typically by default, all right, let's say my name is John Smith, okay, and let's say that my login is J Smith. So if I'm a student here with John Smith, it would be J Smith, at students.blackhawk.edu, correct? That's, I think, how all of your domain names are set up. I mean, mine is just jscott@blackhawk.edu. The way that you typically do this is you use what's called reverse domain notation. So for John Smith's would be edu.blackhawk, and you can put the and in there, but a lot of times people just put .students.jsmith. See what I'm saying? It's kind of reversed from the way that it was. Do you understand what I'm saying? And if you say, well, why would you do it like that? Because a lot of times when you end up building things, especially if you're going to submit it, like if you're building an app that you're going to submit to the Google Play Store or to the App Store for Apple, etc., that's typically how you set that stuff up. It's called reverse domain notation. So I'd like you to get used to using it right now. It wouldn't hurt your program at all if all you typed in there was payroll. Nothing magical bad would happen. But since this is the way that people are supposed to do it, that's what I'm going to encourage you to do right from the start, right from the get-go. So mine would be edu.blackhawk.jscott. All right? So put in whatever, again, if you just want to put edu.blackhawk. Your username, that's okay. You don't even need the students in there. Either way is fine. All right? So I'm going to take for granted that you put in something like that. Correct? All right, so we're going to click Finish. And notice now, can you see what I've got up here? It's created the package. So we've come in here, and now under SRC, underneath here, we now have our package. And what's a package? We go into that in a later chapter. You don't have to worry about it right now. Look at it for now. It's kind of like another folder under our folder. All right, there's one more thing that we have to do. In that package, in there, we have to create our class that we're going to use. All right, so we're going to do the same kind of thing. I'm going to take my mouse, put it over that little icon, right mouse click again, choose New, and now go down right underneath Package, go down to Class. And go ahead and click. Now it comes up, and there's a bunch of stuff in here like, oh, wow, what the heck is all this stuff? Let's just go over the important points. What we're about to type in right here is just the word payroll with a capital P and the rest lowercase. We're just going to call this class payroll. So the payroll class is going to exist inside of this package, which exists inside of our source, which exists inside of a folder called CH1 payroll. All right? Now the other stuff that's in here, we want this to be a public class. That's what we want. We don't have to worry about the package. We don't have to worry about any of this. This is our superclass. Don't worry about that. We don't have to set anything else in here other than type payroll here. And if we want the system to create a main for us, which we do in this case, we're going to check that first one. So I'm going to type up here payroll under name with a capital P. And where it says, would you like stubs? Which method stubs would you like to create? I'm going to leave that one checked that's checked, and I'm going to check the first one. So I typed in this, and I checked this. All right? If you've got that done, just click your Finish button. That's it. And it added some code for you. Wow, that's really small. You remember offhand how to reset my line size?
You go back under Preferences,
I thought that's where I was. Project.
under General,
Wait, under what?
General, or Preferences,
Yeah, which is under what?
Window.
Window preferences. Oh, okay. All right, window preferences.
And there should be an editors there. I think you got to scroll up.
General editors.
Text editors. Hyperlinking.
Let's see.
All I'm trying to do is change
Click
the.
on the text editor.
What's that? Go to Java?
No, click on the text editor. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Is that right or not?
I don't know. All I'm trying to do is change my size,
Yeah.
my font size, because that's darn small.
I can really see.
Well, I'm going to look under Java and see if it maybe is there. Editor under Java. Folding, hovers. Be faster to go online and go look it up, but all right. All right, how to change the font size in Eclipse. Go to Preferences, General, Appearance, Color and Fonts. All right, so it was under General.
Well, that's where I was at.
All right, so there it is, under Appearance, Colors and Fonts. So right under the top, under General, you open that up, there's an Appearance, there's Colors and Fonts. All right,
And then Basic.
what's that?
Expand
Basic?
Basic,
Basic,
and then text font down at the bottom there.
text font,
And then
all right.
to the right there,
edit, and I'll make it 14. Why did I do that? Is that obvious why I did that? Hopefully now Roger can read it, and so can everybody else. All right. This is what got created for us automatically by the system. Now, I'm a little anal about some of this stuff, so I tend to put my curlies on their own line. You don't have to do that. All right. We created that package before that I called edu.blackhawk.jscott. It puts a package line up at the top of my program. Don't remove that line. Don't monkey with that line. It's something that the system set up for us, so it's fine. All right. We called our class payroll. We said it was a class, and we kept the designator in there as being public. All right, so it created that for us. And we told it we wanted it to have a main inside. So that's when it created that. All right. We could run this now, but it wouldn't do a doggone thing because there's really no executable code in it to do anything. So I'm going to give you some code. We're going to put that in. Hopefully we'll get everyone's to run, and we'll take a break. All right. Now I'm going to put in my own information. If you want to put your name in here instead of my name, it doesn't matter. You're not turning this in anyway. All right, so I'm going to type in here string, and we'll go over all this as we get going. First name equals, and again, if you don't want Jeff, then put whatever you want to put in there. You don't have to line stuff up prettily like I'm doing here, but you can. Oops. Now there's about 4 or 5 more lines we're going to put in, but let's just wait. I'll let you catch up, and then we'll go over everything that's in there. And while you're typing, sorry, but just if you can listen, don't look up here or anything, but if you can just listen while you're typing. I remember this, that when I was a junior in high school, I went in and saw a counselor who said to me, "Are you going to college?" And I said, "I hope so. Why?" And they said, "Are you going to a 4-year college?" And I said, "I hope so. Why?" And they said, "Well, then you will need 2 years of a foreign language." So I went in and I took Spanish. Well, unknown to me, seniors got to start class 1 day later than everybody else did. And I'm sorry, juniors and seniors, upperclassmen. So when I came into class the first day, it was really the second day. And there were a bunch of people in that class who had been there the day before. I was one of the few juniors in the class. So all these people are already talking Spanish. And it was bugging the hell out of me that they knew about 10 to 20 words and I didn't know what any of these words meant. So why am I even bringing that up? We're doing something brand new. You're learning a new language. So if everything that we do right now doesn't totally make sense, then it's going to be your responsibility to ask in class, and it's going to be your responsibility to read the chapter. All right? You'll notice that right now we've got a bunch of stuff here that we get this little triangle in about 3 or 4 places, and this has got yellow squigglies. What that is doing is it's letting the system is letting us know, hey, you've got first name and you've got last name that you've created that you're never using in your actual program. So it's telling you you've got stuff in there that's extraneous that you don't need right now. We're going to use it in just a minute. All right, but when you see stuff over here and it's in yellow, it's a warning. And if you'll notice, I don't want you to do this, but notice if I put my mouse over where it says first name. All right, it says Well, you're not using first name, so if I choose that first thing up there that says remove first name, it's going to remove it from my code. I don't want to remove that, but what I'm showing you is there are auto fixes that are built into this IDE. So when the system sees something it doesn't think is right, it'll tell you how it thinks it should be fixed. Sometimes the editor will be correct. Sometimes the editor won't have a flaming clue. And this is one of those cases. So what we've done here is and I'm going to put a comment in here. You don't have to put this in, but I'm going to put a comment in here that says declare program variables. Why? Because that's what I just did. I declared 5 variables. 2 of those 5 variables are type string. All right? That is their data type. Strings in Java have to be within double quotes. So you can see that. Any line of executable Java code must end with a semicolon. So if last semester, or this past semester I should say, if you've been writing your JavaScript and there, at least at times, I didn't put a semicolon on the end and it seemed to work fine. You can't do that in this language. If you leave off semicolons at the end of lines where it expects them, you're going to get an error when you try to run the program. All right? So I'm creating 5 variables here. 2 strings, which means they're just holding text, and 3 variables of type double, which means they're holding numbers. All right? Well, let's make it a little, since it's the first one we're writing, let's just assume here, I'm going to change this a little bit. We're going to assume that you work 40 hours and you make $25 an hour, okay? So I changed that to 40 and to 25. Why did I do that? Because otherwise it was going to be 0 times 0 and it would have said our gross pay was nothing. Now it should say our gross pay is 40 times 25, so it should be 1,000 if we did this correctly. All right, does all that make sense? All right, so we created 5 variables. We initialized 4 of them to numbers we're going to use. The other one we just initialized to 0. So right here, I want you to understand this. What we have there, everything you see in blue right there, that's called a variable declaration. This part that you see right here, that is called a variable initialization. So we are both declaring and initializing our variable on the same line, which is totally legit to do. All right, so now that we've done all this stuff, we're going to put in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different lines where we're going to just print out basically what we just did. Okay, every one of those lines will start with system.out.println. All right, every one of them. And I'm going to do that 6 times. Now, right now, I'm going to put stuff in there, but I'm lazy. So I'm going to do this with just typing in that. All right, now I've just typed in those lines, and now I can put in all my other stuff. So I'm going to say here, first name plus first name. Oops, I guess we didn't use a capital N there, and I should have, but that's okay. All right, I'll let you put all that in, then we'll go back and talk about what that means. This is the whole program. All right, this is everything. Did you notice up here? I'd like to say I did this on purpose, but I screwed up. See how this one says last name and the N is big, and this one I didn't make it big? I should have. So I'm going to go back because I'm running two words together and I want to use camel casing. So I'm going to make my N capitalized there and there. I mean, there's something to be said about being consistent. So again, when I had you type this in the first time, you had a little n there, which meant you needed a little n there. Please change them both so that they're capital N's. All right, again, that's camel casing. That's the way you're supposed to create variable names. All right? So what do we have? We're creating 5 variables. We're initializing 4 of them to their actual values. We're initializing the other one down here to 0. Then we're saying that last one is hours, which is 40, times rate, which is 25, so that should be 1,000. So this, if you did it like with what I've got here, it should say first name Jeff, last name Scott, hours worked 40.0, hourly rate 25.0, gross pay 1,000.0, end of program. If we run it and we did everything correctly, well, that's what should be in there. Just a couple more things again. System.out means that by default you want to put it down here. We want to put it on our console. All right? You'll learn later how you can change that to write it to a file instead of writing it to the console. All right? Print line is a method. It's built into the system. Everything that goes into the print line has got to be between parentheses. So this is a method that needs parameters. This has 2 parameters, that string and that variable. That string and that variable all the way down. And finally, the \n means give me a couple new lines before we do this. Make sure that if you did that, you used a \n, not a /n. If you use a /n, it'll print out /n. All right? Probably is a good time to get used to before you even run this, just in case there's a problem going up and doing a file save. All right, so I went up to File in my menu, and I chose Save. You can do a Control-S. There is a disk icon. You can do it any way you'd like to do it. It's really not going to matter. So after you've saved, go over to Run. So click on Run, and click Run again. And ideally, you might have to drag this up to look at it. That's what you should have. If everything worked for you, okay? Now, if you think you typed it in right, you got an error, or something looks funky and you don't know what it is, then raise your hand and either John or I will come over there and try to show you what you may not have done correctly. Just so you know, in the future, we'll learn how to make this 40.00, 25.00. We'll learn how to put dollar signs in there. We'll learn how this will end up becoming $1,000.00. It'll look real nice. All right, the kind of way it would look if you were writing a check or whatever. We don't care about that right now. We just cared about getting this done. Is there anything that's in this program that doesn't make sense to people? All right, there is something with this program. It's not a problem, but if I run this program 1,000 times, am I going to get the same output every time? The answer is yes. It's going to look exactly the same, unless I go in and change it. So we're going to make modifications, and we're going to, and it's what, 8:44, so we'll do a little bit of it. We'll just get the next one started. All right, then we'll take a break, then we'll come back, and we'll be able to make modifications on this by the end of the period today. What's going to happen is the next one we write, it's going to come up here, and instead of, when you run it, instead of saying this stuff, it's going to come up with a message here that says, enter your first name. So Roger puts Roger. It says, enter your last name. And I don't remember what your last name is, but he puts his last name in. And it says, how many hours did you work? And if he puts in 10, an hourly rate, he puts in $100, and it says gross pay, it'll still say 1,000. But you'll be able to run it, and every time you run it, you can conceivably put different values in for one or more of your variables. All right, we'll get that done. Then we'll go back and we'll modify that program and make another copy of it. And the only thing that'll change is, instead of having it come down here, we'll bring up dialog boxes, like an input box that comes up and asks him his name. If it asks you in here, if it asks you for a number, and you put something non-numeric, your program's gonna blow up. If you don't believe me, you can try it, when we get there a little later. It's okay, it's not a big thing. All right, we're not concerned with that right now. But what I recommend that you do is to leave this particular program open, because what we're going to end up doing in just a minute is we're going to end up grabbing everything that's inside of main, everything that's in here, and copying it over, because that's going to create about 2/3 of our next program. You understand what I'm saying? So I would just leave this one up here. But that said, before we take a break, let's all do this. Let's all go to File, New, Java Project. We're going to create a second project. We'll actually create 3 of them before the end of the period. Now, we're going to create 2 programs for Chapter 2. Okay? So, we call this one CH1 Payroll, so we're going to create CH2 Payroll right now, but since there's 2 of them, it's not spelled right. We're going to call them CH2 Payroll, A, and CH2 Payroll B. So those are the 2 we're going to create. Right now, since it's the first one, we're going to type in here CH2 Payroll B. Payroll A. Okay, question?
Is it okay for the A and B if they're capitalized?
Doesn't matter. Yeah, that'd be fine. If that makes it easier for you, make it a capital. That's okay.
I made mine a 1.
What's that?
I made mine a 1.
You can make it a 1. You can do them 1 and 2. It doesn't really matter. All right. All right. So I'll keep it as A right there. And again, then just click Finish. And now you've got a second one down here. If you take a look up on the screen, now we've got a second one. We want to go through the same stuff. In other words, we want to open this. We want to right mouse click. What's the next step? What do we want to create underneath our SRC? A package. So we want to right mouse click on there. We want to go to New, and we want to go down to Package. All right? Just like we did before, edu.blackhawk. However you did the last one. The package name can be identical between different projects because they're different projects. All right, once you've got that, click Finish. All right, and what do we stick inside of our package? A new class. So we're going to right mouse click on the package here, go over to New, right underneath Package it says Class. We can call this Payroll again. That's totally fine. Payroll, and we want a main, just like we did last time. All right, once you've got all that stuff, click Finish. All right, now what I recommend is you go back to your original payroll one, the one right here. If you look up on the screen, highlight everything that's inside of your main, copy it to the clipboard, however you do a copy, right mouse click and choose Copy, do a Control-C, whatever you do. So copy it to the clipboard, flip back to the other one, and paste it in. All right? So we're going to make changes to this one, but we still are going to use our same variables, and we're still going to print out the stuff. We're just going to add a little bit of stuff kind of in the middle, so to speak. Does that make sense? All right. It's still going to print out on the bottom when we get all done because we'll keep the system.out.println. But we'll try to make this a little bit more user-friendly, a little bit more interactive. So I'm not done with this one yet. If I ran it, it would look just like the last one. So I'm going to save this. So I'm going to do a file save. I'll just click the disk icon this time. It's 8:49. Let's come back at 9:05. All right.